Barraskewda can really do one thing in this life, and it's kinda one of the best at it. Fella's a glass cannon with its unique base 123 attack and insane 136 speed, and the cool part is that it can become one of the fastest mons in the game with its ability Swift Swim. It doesn't even need to use any EV or nature investment in speed to be quicker than a photosynthesis speed boosted Fluttermane if the rain is up, which is nuts. So we're gonna slap on a choice band to make it even more of an attack missile to bop things with stabbed rain boosted liquidations. Then we've got flip turn for great pivoting, close combat for water resist, or even crunch for common checks like Slowbro. Barraskewda is what we like to call a one-trick pony, but it's super fun, and we're gonna use it to literally delete some stuff. Look, Barraskewda in the rain is one of the scariest things possible. It gives you the same feeling as when you're being chased by Veluza in the overworld in the water, but this time, this thing will actually kill you. So today we're going to show some love to one of the scariest rain sweepers out there, and it's about to get slippery. If that sounds like a fun time to you, consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm on my way to 400k, I'd love to have you help me out, and with that, let's get into the match. Alright, so as my opponent decides to lead off with the Clodsire, I also have myself a little annoying poison lead, and I feel like in a different life we would be homies, but today, this Clodsire is absolutely the enemy. So I'm here to set up some Stealth Rock. I am kind of worried about an Earthquake, but in general, I have a Focus Ash, it's fine. I figure they probably set up the rocks of their own, but instead, Clodsire, the battle just started, but he's already sleepy. They go for the turn 1 Yawn, which is gonna essentially just force me to swap here, and I realized, you know what, that's kind of a decent opportunity to get out of here. I figure maybe they click Earthquake here. I can go into Pelipper and just immediately get the rain. All these beachgoers are about to be pissed because now it's straight up raining out here. So we bring in the Toilet Bird. We get that Drizzle up. I do have Damp Rock, gonna stick around for the 8 turns. And they just go right for that Stealth Rock here. So this is an interesting matchup. I can't really safely try to get something going against Clodsire. A, because this thing is thick as hell, but B, it has Yawn. So I decided to just go for an Ice Beam. It doesn't do much damage, reveals this thing's definitely a special defense wall. But also I click Ice Beam there for chip and because I know they probably Yawn there, which they do. And they're trying to just spread that sleepiness around, but I am not tired. It's a beautiful day at the beach, and now that allows me to go for a U-turn. I figured the Yawn is perfect there because I can just U-turn out of that drowsiness. And then, as I get poison pointed on the U-turn, while that's generally unfortunate, that is actually really good to know. Reason for that is because now I know that that's not going to be a water-absorbed Clodsire, and poison point activating there was probably the worst thing that could have happened for Buddy, because now I heard you like fish sticks. I can bring in Barraskewda, and we are absolutely in our natural habitat. We've got the rain. I do take some Stealth Rock chip, but the freaking tail is spinning, and we're about to have a time. So they end up going for the Toxic Spikes there. Not the end of the world, because I can always bring back in Glimmora to soak them up. It also reveals that we've seen most of this thing's moveset at this point. Now, after some leftover recovery, this thing, without Water Absorb, is going to have a bad time versus the crazy fish. I go right for the Liquidation. They really do not have much that wants to switch into that. And the Liquidation is going to kill it, but I also get another poison point. So, you know, not super bad because, I mean, this thing, it doesn't put me on that bad of a timer without a bad poison, but also, Barraskewda is not really designed to take hits anyway. We're supposed to be fast and just bop stuff with Choice Band Liquidations. Regardless, Clodsire going down is always great. It's a just defensive fella that we don't have to worry about. And now we get ourselves into a little bit old-fashioned fun. So they bring in a Crownzation. It gets its attack boost. But here's the thing. I am able to outspeed in the rain, obviously. And a Liquidation after Stealth Rock chip has an 85% chance to kill this. It is still a roll, but it absolutely bops the guy. Liquidation with the one-hit surprise KO. And that is an exact example of why you do not want to play games with the Barraskewda. We take care of the Zation, which is the scariest thing on the squad, and that feels pretty good. Now we're in a great spot. So here's the thing. They go into the Incineroar, and while we're already putting in some work with the fish, I get intimidated, which is annoying. A Liquidation with the Choice Band in the rain does still kill, but there's a couple things I'm worried about. So I'm just going to stay in, go for another Liquidation. We're going to play it safe. And as they click the Fake Out, that's a bit annoying. Does some chip, but also just burns another turn of Toxic. And then as I'm looking at this thing, I mean, the only reason why they would go Incineroar is to Terra out of dying to a Liquidation here. So, realizing that Barraskewda is a crazy win condition at this point, I decided to save the thing for later. I do still have Pelipper who can get back up the rain, and expecting a defensive Terra, I'm just going to go right back into Glimmora, because A, I can soak up those Toxic Spikes, and then also, if they want to touch me on the physical side, they're going to get some T-Spikes on there. So we're going to pull the old Una Reverse. put the spikes on their side. So they do go for the defensive Terra. Pulls out the Terra water, puts the fountain on the head. Would have allowed it to live the liquidation easily. But it's just an obvious Terra is obvious. So as they go for knockoff, doesn't matter, gets rid of my focus sash, but pops me like a little pinata, puts some toxic spikes on their end, which feels especially good because their Clodsire is gone. So they don't have any way to get rid of those T-spikes. And it also potentially enables things like Quillfish's Barb Barrage. So realizing I probably just leave this thing as a sack, I decide to go for the Sludge Wave here just for some chip on the Incineroar. And that's some meaningful damage because now as this thing goes for a parting shot, which is annoying, as it comes back in, it has to take Stealth Rock, it should be in range for another Barraskewda liquidation to kill it, even through the resist. So as they drop my offenses and then they now get a nice little pivot, they decide to bring in the Boulder. Pioneers used to drive these babies for miles, but also now they're poisoned, so that's always, it's nice. So, we don't see a booster energy. Tells me this thing might potentially be scarfed or choiced in some way, but in general, Iron Boulder is scary, and I don't really need to let Gilmora go down here. I am also potentially worried about something like a Swords Dance, but as long as I go into Pelipper here, I can bring back in Barraskewda, and we just outspeed everything. So, I go right back to the toilet. We're like, yeah, it's not looking nearly moist enough out here, so we set back up the rain. Shout out to the Damp Rock keeping us wet out here. And they end up going for the Zen Headbutt, which does not kill me because I'm just max HP. It all lives in my bill, and the Psychic Forehead doesn't even matter. So we are poisoned, so the next one is going to be able to kill. But that kind of helps me out in general because my main plan is to just get right back in Barraskewda, as we're really feeling like that thing can just body bag the hell out of him. So they go for another Zen Headbutt, does take care of the Pelipper, does not look like choice band damage, which is nice. But Barraskewda does not give a damn about having to take attacks, especially with things like toxic spikes and slowly whittling things down. We can just pick things off super easily. This thing's attack is insane. So we also hear that Iron Boulder likes fish sticks, so we decide to bring back in the Dart Fish, and it's time. I don't necessarily feel like I have to go for a flip turn expecting the Incineroar switch in. I'm just going to Liquidation even through an Intimidate. Two of them should at least be able to kill, if not just one of them. So they do swap back into Incineroar. But he comes in, takes some big old Stealth Rock. But the bad news is, with that Stealth Rock chip, that now gets it into Citrus Berry range, which I was not expecting. Now it's above half, or Figgy Berry, and that is kind of scary. So it now takes some poison, it's still at about half, and Intimidate also still comes through. I do only still have a few more attacks left in me, but as I go for a Liquidation, it just knocks it out. And I end up getting a critical hit anyway, which is great. That Berry proc was actually pretty bad for me, because then they could have had the Fake Out. But the lucky crit comes through. Barraskewda does not give a damn. All we do is kill stuff. And as I take one more turn of Toxic Poison, I only have one more attack left in me, which is fine. So, they've now got 3 Mons left. The best part for us is that one of them is surely going to die. They don't have any priority. And as they bring in Iron Boulder, they've also got the Garganackle and a Houndstone in the back. So, Iron Boulder comes in. I can just pop a Liquidation, turn his ass to Liquid. And ain't no Pioneer is going to be driving that baby. So, takes care of that. And sadly, even though Barraskewda was about to pull it through, the poison damage does have enough to knock us out. And down we go. So luckily, we've done enough to the team where I feel like we can pull this one back. But they do still have some threats. And the one good thing is they don't have the ability to Terra. Incineroar going for that Terra early really sets up my late game. So they decide then to bring in the Garganackle. Big salty boy, the Garganachi comes in. And I've got a little plan up my sleeve. I decided to bring in Kingdra, and this Kingdra is supposed to be a little bit of an undercover kind of guy. First of all, I'm not Swift Swim. I'm actually Sniper on this guy, and that's because I'm a full Focus Energy crit set, which is sweet. So, as I realize I do not need an Agility, I decided to go right for that Focus Energy, just guarantee with Sniper and the Scope Lens that every attack is going to be a critical hit. And luckily for us, they even click Protect to Scout, but that's pretty nice because now it's time. I do not have Surf coverage on this thing. I've been messing around with the moveset because of fairies. But as I go for the Terra Steel, I can boost up a Flash Cannon, and with that super effective hit, and everything being a crit, guess what? This Garganackle is not going to have a good time. So, put the axe on my head. I'm a Sniper with an axe. This thing is scary as hell. And as I hit that nice little boosted Flash Cannon, critical hit guaranteed is going to take care of young Minecraft boy over there. And that's a dead guard. Always great to see Garganackle going down to 1 hit. Now the final Mon being the Houndstone should be able to outspeed. And with that 1 Focus Energy, it's a lot of the time just game over for the Kingdra. This thing is insane. I also do still have the Toxic Spike up, which is great. Doesn't really matter because all I gotta do is just land a Draco Meteor And as we do outspeed, guaranteed crit Draco Meteors is wild. It does take care of the Houndstone, and that is going to be the end of the match. Kingdra coming through to pull out the little late game sweep to put the little bow on what Barraskewda did for us. So that's going to be the end of that one. Thought that was a fun match. Really shows Barraskewda is nuts. And we're not going to quite stop there because we do still have one more. As always, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you might as well just hit the like button. And immediately looking at this team preview, Buddy's working with full fairy squad. And it's all some pretty scary stuff, which I don't match up super well against. This one's going to be interesting, and let's get into it. Alright, so this time, my dude's going to lead off with the Rabombi, which is always great from team preview. You can easily predict a lead with that. It's going to be here for Sticky Web. But as I've got Glimmora, it presents him with an interesting kind of matchup turn one. First of all, I have coverage with it with Sludge Wave, but I can also Mortal Spin away the Sticky Web. So initially I'm feeling like they probably swap here, and as I can set up a nice little free Stealth Rock, they bring in the Tinkaton. Just likely as a Steel Switch in to be able to soak up a Sludge Wave, or even a Mortal Spin if they thought I was going to go for that. But Tinkaton I don't really have any business being here against. I do not have Earth Power coverage on the guy, so I realize why not just get some rain going early? I'm a hyper offensive squad that really benefits from starting to get things going early, and that leads me to just go right into the Pelipper here, get that drizzle up, and they end up clicking the Bulldoze. So they got the coverage versus the Glimmora, but Pelipper comes in with the unexpected dodge, which is always great. And now thinking they swap out, I'd go for a U-turn trying to grab a matchup, but instead, I get Thunder Waved, which is, I'm not even gonna lie, one of the worst feelings in competitive mons. Being paralyzed is such a hindrance. So luckily, I do not get the full para. I can go for that U-turn, grab myself a nice little matchup, and I realize, look, if this Tinkaton's gonna be a support one, especially with T-Wave, I'm gonna go into the Golurk. Now this is a special Golurk where his ability is Klutz, which is generally a horrible ability, but it allows him to trick an Assault Vest. And if I can give this thing an Assault Vest, I could stop it from Thunder Waving other stuff. But they get up their Stealth Rock before I'm able to give it the vest, sadly. And as they stay in, I was kind of hoping maybe they swap here, but they stay in, and I'm like, you know what, Tinkaton, I got you this vest. I feel like you would just look beautiful in this vest. And she tries it on, and she's like, wow, I do feel pretty nice. But I lose my Citrus Berry, and now I can only go for physical attack, or attacking moves. So as I now can click Earthquake, they do stay in, go for a Gigaton Hammer. Thought maybe they would swap there, but as I take the Gigaton, I can hit it with an Earthquake. And sometimes I forget that Golurk is an absolute beast. My Earthquake Stab is able to just take care of it, and I might as well have just clicked Earthquake to begin with. But it is what it is. We take care of the Tinkaton, which is fantastic. But now, that brings in another scary fairy, which is arguably the scariest fairy in Iron Valiant. Does come in, gets a Quark Drive, and it is going to be an attack boost. So, Golurk does not have a whole lot of utility, being at a little below half here. I decide to stay in, and as they click the Psycho Cut, I live, which I thought was crazy. Even with an attack boost, max HP Golurk takes like less than 40% from that, which is sick. So I get an Earthquake off for some great chip, but they do finish me off with another Psycho Cut. And now I figure, look, it's raining out, it's raining inside actually, into little indoor rain, never hurt nobody, except for the owner of this cafe, but I can now bring in the Barraskewda, and I can just outspeed everything. And I figured the Barraskewda is going to be a problem. So thinking maybe they swap here. If not, I go for the flip turn anyway, because it's going to grab a kill, and as they stay in, flip turn knocks it out. But I want to save the Barraskewda for later. They've got some nonsense on the squad. Like, if I just knock that thing out straight away, they could go Klefki and then Prankster Thunderwave me, and I don't really want to commit to Barraskewda, my main sweeper being, you know, hindered that early. So now with the flip turn, I have to go into whatever I want. I'm going to bring in Kingdra. Once again, this thing plays mind games a little bit. It's not going to be as fast as they think because it's on a rain team. Everybody just assumes Swift Swim, but I'm Sniper. And as they do now go into that Klefki, which is annoying, I figure, you know what, this is fine. I do have the Steel Terra, and I could potentially set up on this thing. I will need an agility and a focus energy, but I am going to go for it anyway and see if we can get Sniper Kingdra to do some nonsense. So they click Thunder Wave again. Buddy does not want me to play the game. Incredibly rude. But even paralyzed after an agility, I'm like, okay, well, I'm still on top a little bit on that. I have to worry about the full paras, and as the rain goes away, not a huge deal. So, Klefki is annoying. I would love to be able to take care of this Klefki, and I figure, I don't know exactly what this thing wants to do, if it's just going to be like a Spikes variant, or if it's going to try to set up in stored power. I decide it's in my best interest to go for that Terra Steel. It's going to block any massive damage from fairy coverage. Not only that, but it also is going to boost up my Flash Cannon, which with guaranteed critical hit could be pretty nice here. So we put the axe on our heads once again, and this thing goes for a Calm Mind, which we absolutely love to see. Calm Mind Klefki against a guaranteed crit Kingdra is perfect, because obviously with my critical hit, it's going to ignore their stat boost anyway. So as I get up my focus energy, we're feeling pretty good about that. And now everything is about to be hit by a crit, which is sick as hell and kind of insane. So I now go for that flash cannon. I figure even with that Calm Mind, it's not going to matter. Something's about to take a flash cannon. As they swap into Gardevoir, I'm like, oh, perfect. This thing is about to absolutely die. And as they come in, they trace my sniper. But the bad thing about being parried is it just stops you from playing the game. I do get the full paralyzed, which sucks. It would have been very satisfying there. And now I've got to go for it again. I'm like, you know, if they have a defensive Terra, so be it. And of course they do. They end up going for the Terra here. Do not want the Gardevoir to go down. It's going to be Terra Fire. So on my incoming Flash Cannon, that's going to suck. I am still going to be faster, which reveals the thing is not Choice Scarf, which is great because I can get at least a Flash Cannon off. And with a crit, it's going to still do some good damage. Had I predicted that Terra and gone for a Draco Meteor, that would have been a sick play. But I don't. I knock it down below half, though, which is great. And now they can finish me with a now stab Mystical Fire. And without my Rain Up, I no longer get the defensive benefit from that. Down goes the Kingdra. So I lose Kingdra and my Terra for almost nothing. I do at least bait them or force them having to use their own Terra, which is great. And also, with the rain going away, that's a good kind of timing opportunity to bring back in the Pelipper. Plus, this thing being fire type, I figure they probably swap here. I come in, make it rain again. The owner of this cafe is pissed. And expecting them to swap, I'm going to go for the U-turn. But they stay in, going for another Mystical Fire. Leads me to believe, is this thing choiced? It doesn't feel like it, but the Mystical Fire doesn't do much. Does drop my special attack. And as I go for a U-turn, that still ends up working out for me. Going for the slow U-turn is one of the best ways to enable Barraskewda to come in. And again, getting in these Rain Sweepers effectively is just the best way to run this hyper offense. So I go back into the Fish Sticks. Heard you like some Fish Sticks, and there's not much that, again, that wants to come into this. So rather than flip turning here, I'm going all out liquidation. And that's because while they do have things that can at least take one attack, like this exact fella here, Screamtail can take one of them. As they bring in the Screamtail, I'm thinking this thing is generally pretty thick. Screamtail's more annoying than you think it is. It doesn't have great physical defense, but it's got decent HP, and while it does live it pops a berry. It ends up being a key berry, which boosts this thing's defense. Tells me this is probably some type of bulk up setup with like Drain Punch, which is kind of crazy. But, I mean, even with that defense boost, another liquidation easily kills it. We turn his ass to liquid. That is going to be a dead Screamtail, and just like that, Barraskewda is once again schmoving on him. So the work is not quite as easy as I would like it to be, because of course they do still have this pair of boo-boo keys. And this thing is, of course, a prankster little asshole who I was expecting a Thunder Wave. Turns out they go for an Iron Defense, so it's more than likely going to be a stored power set. And with that Iron Defense, a Liquidation is not quite going to be enough to kill it, but I should still be on top to be able to knock it out on the next one. So Klefki, I mean, we just still do huge damage regardless. We don't care how iron your defense is. They realize they're probably not going to get anywhere with a stored power variant, so they decide to go for another Thunder Wave. I've never been paralyzed so many damn times, but luckily we break through the parrot at least on this turn, and a liquidation is going to take care of Klefki. So that's always a great mon to see die, because prankster and keys just do not mesh. And now we're at the point where they've got two mons left. First they've got the Rabombi, and then they have the Gardevoir in the back who is Terrid and has chip on it. So as they go Rabombi here, they are able to outspeed through the para, and a Dazzling Gleam we're able to live, which is sick because we also don't get fully parried. And that is why not having to go full speed investment can be clutch, because extra HP allows it to live that one, which feels good. So while we do take enough chip, the bad thing is Gardevoir comes in and it does end up tracing the Swift Swim. So they probably should have gone Gardevoir before the Rabombi there, but it traces Swift Swim. Now this thing's going to be super speedy. It goes for a Dazzling Gleam. That is going to be able to take care of the Barraskewda. But the work has basically been done, because now looking at it, even though this thing is now Swift Swim as well, I've got myself a Quillfish that should, first of all, be able to take any attack, but also, I'm 5 base speed faster than a Gardevoir. So with my Swift Swim, I should be able to outspeed. That is exactly what happens. We take a nice little bite out of him, and that is going to be a dead Gardevoir, and also going to be the end of the match there. So super interesting one against a kind of a crazy mono team there. But I thought that was just a fun time, and we just out here playing in the rain. So Once again, thank you guys very much for watching. The support is greatly appreciated. And with that, I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.